Alright guys, welcome to my UFC 325 breakdown. I'm going to do a bit of a different format today. Instead of doing questions in the beginning, we're going to jump right into the breakdown of the results of the previous card. Then I'll probably take a few questions depending on how long that takes. Then we'll get into this card. Hey guys. Alright. So let me switch over to that quickly. Hey, Pyotr Janzny. I always struggle with your name, I don't know why. Alright, so let's switch over to this. So starting with Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit. Miller had a better performance than I expected. Even though he did get hurt at one point, I was expecting that if he got a finish, it was probably going to be late. He definitely did more damage and committed to the right hand a lot more than he normally did in the past. So good on him. I still do think he has some defensive issues just because he resets a little bit slow. But other than that, he's going to be an interesting fighter in this division. He has a very strong jab. He's definitely proving to have more power than he used to, and he is fairly technical. So good on him with the first round finish. Salkilld versus Freeman was just pathetic to watch. Like, I didn't even have words for it. Like, Freeman just didn't do anything. Good on Salkilld, I guess. He still proved that he's very athletic compared to most of the heavyweights until probably like the top 5. But there was not much to take from it when Freeman just did nothing. But I mean, yeah, Salkilld got the takedown easily, did whatever the hell he wanted to on the feet, was still swinging from the hips. So I still do think that like a better striker at heavyweight is probably going to catch him and put him out, to be honest. But yeah, against these guys who are just not athletic enough to really justify being in the division, he's going to definitely put them away. I think maybe the next fight they'll do would be like Salkilld, Derek Lewis or something like that. They know Derek Lewis is just going to lose to anyone who's half decent at this point. It does give Derek Lewis a bit of a chance because Salkild's striking defense is so garbage. But I do think with Salkild's speed, he probably would honestly chin him at this point. The first interesting fight of the card, in my opinion, in terms of future ramifications, yeah, this fight ended up being pretty much what I expected. A little bit more one-sided than I expected, to be fair. I was saying Alex Perez decision. But yeah, Johnson just cannot fight the better flyweights because Johnson has one of these styles, again, where it kind of looks pretty, but it's not very good. Because Johnson has to be moving forwards when he fights. He can't move backwards. He just has no idea what to do there. He just kind of freezes up. And when he does move forwards, he crashes into the pocket. So if you're patient and you just counter when he crashes into the pocket, you can hurt him badly, which is what we saw. Perez basically was able to just unload with hooks whenever he came into the pocket. And then once Johnson was moving backwards, the fight was basically over because he couldn't do anything. But yeah, I mean, Johnson's just not, I think he'll probably drop out of the top 15 soon. He's just not like ranked flyweight material in all honesty. Perez is proving that he is worthy of his spot, right? He's a top like 7 flyweight guy who is going to fraud check a lot of these guys who are trying to get into the rankings. So good on Alex Perez. Unfortunate for Charles Johnson, but I think at this point in his career, he's pretty much who he is. It's kind of over in that sense. Okay, on to Krylov versus Modestas. Really happy for Perez. Yeah, me too. It was definitely good to see him get a win. What's crazy about this fight is like from the stats, it doesn't look like it was that bad of a fight, but it was so boring to watch live. I'd have to. I don't want to watch it back. I'm just gonna assume like most of the shots that Krylov landed were like jabs or something, and that's why it looks so slow. But yeah, this was pathetic, and this was just Modestas not knowing what to do if like being fast didn't let him land things. And then Krylov just being a bit more technical, but not wanting to commit to stuff because he just got knocked out twice. And yeah, it was one of those performances where you're like, I don't know if I want to see Modestas fight again anytime soon, especially not like at any decent place in the card, because this should have been a much better fight than that. Neither wanted to commit to anything, and Krylov was just better. Gaudier versus Pulev was, in my opinion, a very embarrassing showing. Because a lot of people are being like, oh, Pulev was super underrated, blah, 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 all that stuff. Pulev is not that good, right? All Pulev did was circle away from the right hand. And Gaudier did have no idea how to handle that. He was just completely lost when his opponent didn't stand still and come at him in a straight line. So that was a really bad sign for Gaudier. I mean, as we talked about in the breakdown last week, I wasn't the highest on Gaudier. I just didn't love his striking and his resets and such. But he has no setups whatsoever. He's just like, if you don't let him land his power, well, he's not going to be able to find a way to land it. So Pulev is still a guy who I think is probably going to get demolished in his next fight, and he's probably going to be a favorite coming in because people think like, oh, he was good. He had a close fight with Gaudier, and then he's just going to get destroyed again because he's just not that good. Gaudier, I have a feeling they'll take a step back, give him another like low level Kaan who still hasn't figured out how to circle, and then maybe try to let him develop from there. But he has a lot of work to do. He has the natural talents, but he does not have the skills by any means, and we definitely saw that exposed here. Hey, mixed martial artist 1. Audaba or Cody Brundage? I would probably pick Audaba there because Brundage doesn't really use angles, but I wouldn't even be that confident, to be honest. Okay, Umar versus Figgy. So I think you guys know, based on what I've always said about Umar, what I'm about to say about this. So this is going to be extremely redundant. But yeah, Umar always finds a way to underperform. It does not matter what fight he is in. Like let's look at his record here. Right? The only fight where Umar overperformed was the Barcelos fight, because most people expected him to win a decision against Barcelos. Then after that, gets almost knocked out as like a minus 1,000 favorite. Goes to decision with Corey, wasn't bad, but is a really close fight, in a fight where he was, I think, favored to get a finish as well. Then loses to Merab as a massive favorite, gets a drop by Bautista and almost subbed by Bautista. And like I was like, okay, I didn't love that, but Bautista I do think is underrated. So I was like, okay, that's fine, I guess. He's probably just going to like destroy Figgy. Even if he doesn't finish him, he'll probably be like a very dominant 30-27 with a few submission attempts and so on. He couldn't get a takedown for like half the fight. And when he did, he just laid on him. And this is not like prime Figgy where you're worried about him like starching you with an uppercut when you come in or something. This is Figgy who is just not wanting to throw a punch. So Umar is just not that good a fighter. Like initially I was thinking like, oh, O'Malley probably has no chance against Umar, so if they make that like number one contender fight, then it's probably just going to be Umar decision into a rematch into Umar, either Jan or Merab, whoever wins that trilogy. But honestly, at this rate, I feel like O'Malley can knock him out. I did not like Umar's movements. He tends to get caught a lot, as we saw in both the Bautista and Bekzat fights. And if you have this little finishing ability and not even like chain wrestling to get Figgy down, well, I don't even know what to say. It's just like Umar's somehow always worse than I think he is, even though I already don't think he's good to start with. So, yeah, that is what it is. Like, the expectations for Umar were just too high. I don't know why the UFC rushed him from Bekzat to Corey. That's fair. I think the problem is that, like, we know the result of the fight. And we know when you know the results of the fights of someone who, like, you can't build too much because of their last name, it puts the UFC in a weird position because, like, okay, yeah, you could keep giving him people at, say, like, the Brian Kelleher level, but it's like, okay, we're going to let him rack up a bunch of subs that teach us nothing because they're against people who probably should be retired right now. Like, so I do get what you're saying. It's just a very weird position where he's just probably never going to be good enough to be champion or even like a rightful number one contender, but he's always going to be good enough that he's going to make really boring, quote unquote, dominant fights against like the middle tier fighters. But anyway, so I know what a lot of you want to ask me about is the John Silva fight. So perception of John Silva fights is always super weird because a lot of people are acting like the fight was close, which I just did not see in the slightest. Like, round one was close in all fairness, right? You could give round one to Allen. I will not say you're crazy. I thought Silva stole round one with the last burst because it did look like he rocked Allen a bit. So that being the biggest moment, I did think swayed the round. But if you want to give round one to Allen, that's fine. Round two, Silva almost doubles up on Allen strikes and lands everything harder. So I don't get the whole like, oh, Allen won rounds 1 and 2 thought here. Like round 2 was not mildly competitive. And then round 3, like even though it's less dramatic in terms of the strikes landed, was even less competitive because Silva was like landing multiple head kicks and lighting Allen up to the point that it seems like he might be able to get the finish, but didn't quite pull it off. Would I have liked to see Silva chase the finish a little bit harder? Yeah, I would have, but I do understand he just got finished because he chased the finish in his previous fight. That messes with you a little bit, and he still looked pretty good once he got his reads. Silva's biggest problem, of course, is always going to be that he is a little bit of a slow starter. He definitely needs to get to like the 3rd minute in the first round before he starts like trusting himself to throw and land. So those first 3 minutes, people can just freely land on him and basically rack up points there. In a fight like this, where like Allen was never going to hurt Silva, it's fine. But I would like to see that tightened up a little bit in the future so that he isn't taking too much damage in round 1. Because if you get like your leg compromised before you get your reads or something like that, yeah, that could be a bit more of a problem. Is John Silva your favorite fighter? I would say stylistically, maybe. Personality-wise, it's probably, say, like Oliveira. Sad to see Arnold lose again, but I think he would school other featherweights like Steve, Emmett, Nama, etc. Yeah, I agree with you. Alright, so moving on to Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. So, I will be honest with you guys, I thought Rose won. And I had a Natalia Silva by unanimous decision bet, and I was shocked when it hit. Like, had she won a split decision, I would have been like, okay, round 1 was kind of close. I'm not shocked. We had a bit of a different perception there. Getting a unanimous decision did really surprise me. I thought Rose pulled it off. I thought she did more damage in round 1 and definitely took round 2 with the ground and pound there. Round 3, of course, was all Silva, but not enough to like 10-8 or anything, obviously. So, very strange scoring in that sense. I am glad that my read on the fight was pretty much perfect. Because Rose was not just standing in front of Silva, a lot of Silva's skill set was kind of negated because of that. However, I still expected Silva to show a little bit more, in all honesty. So I don't know what to, or I kind of know what to take of this. I feel like Silva is just going to get starched by Valentina if that fight happens. Like, I can't see it being competitive at this point. I do think that stylistically, on the feet, Silva matches up a little bit better with Valentina because Valentina is going to stand in one place, unlike Rose. But with how somewhat easily she got taken down by Rose in round 2, I don't see that fight going well. Love you MMA judging is so iffy sometimes. They extremely overvalue grappling and sometimes they act like it doesn't exist. Yeah, true. One thing really impresses me about Silva is that he can easily shift the momentum to his side in like 1 minute, for example, the Bryce. But yeah, once John Silva gets his reads, it's pretty much over. But yeah, on to Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. This is another fight where it's like, this was one fight removed from the co-main, really. Like, Derek Lewis on a main card in 2026, it's kind of wild, because we all know at this point that if he doesn't get a knockout in like the first 2 minutes, he's probably going to quit. Yeah, this is just Acosta being an actual fighter, and Lewis being someone who just can hit hard and just tries to flatline you for 2 minutes, but has zero heart, zero technique, and zero cardio, to say the absolute least. So yeah, people are saying like, oh, Lewis didn't actually get dropped or rocked in the final sequence, he just quit. I don't think that's quite true. I do think he moved into the jab and it did hurt him. But yes, I do think after that he did make the conscious decision to not try to get back into the fight. But yeah, Acosta is a good boxer. Would I have liked to see him chase the finish a little bit faster? Yes, but he took the smart path for sure. Like, realistically, if you just wait out the first round against Lewis, you're pretty much guaranteed to knock him out at this point. So, fair enough, even though I would have liked to see him press the action a little bit faster. O'Malley versus Song is another fight where I don't understand the public perception of this, because a lot of people are screaming this is a robbery. I don't see how, because, I mean, we look at the stats here, right? Like, O'Malley was up significant strikes in round 1. And then if you look at the significant strikes that were landed in round 1, all of Song's significant strikes in round 1 are to the leg. And unless like you are visibly crippling your opponent with half kicks, they are not going to score highly. So the fact that O'Malley at least landed some to the head is going to put him ahead in that round. So I really do not understand the narrative. I think it's just people not liking O'Malley, and that's fine, but this was not like a controversial fight in my opinion. O'Malley getting taken down by Song in round 2, yeah, not what you want to see if you're rooting for like O'Malley to win the belt again or something like that. But in all fairness, he picked it up in round 3, and what I kind of felt like is that in rounds 1 and 2, O'Malley was fighting to not lose, and then in round 3, he finally started fighting to win again. So I don't know if it was just a confidence issue or what the deal was, but yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to start the fights like he did in round 3. I think the people saying robbery for the O'Malley and John Silva fights are just biased with Rotate or about the underdog story. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, on to the main event. So, some of you have heard my rant about the main event, some of you have not. So, starting with the obvious, yeah, Paddy sucks. Paddy's even worse than I thought, and I've said Paddy is like absolute garbage for a very long time. So, yeah, I don't know how he managed to like exceed my expectations in terms of how bad he is. But what I will say is he also got like quote unquote robbed here. I don't mean robbed in terms of the decision being bad, but I mean robbed in the sense that Gaethje fouled him multiple times. The ref only caught one of them somehow, and Gaethje essentially won off of fouls because of the fact that in round 2, a round that he was losing handedly, he eye pokes him, gets a knockdown off of that, and then wins the round off the knockdown eye poke when he was losing previously, definitely gives Paddy a concussion and destroys his eye, and then still loses rounds 3 and 5 after that. And seeing that, it's like, okay, yeah, Paddy is bad, sure. Gaethje is arguably worse. And Gaethje is like incredibly dirty as a fighter as well, because after this, I started going back and watching Gaethje's other fights. I didn't realize how many times he eye pokes his opponent. He eye poked like almost every single opponent he fought, which is absolutely wild. Especially the Barboza fight. He literally got the knockout off the eye poke as well. So he has a history of doing this, unfortunately. And I do really think this should be changed into a no contest, though I know it's not going to be. That is what it is. But yeah, I mean, despite my distaste for Paddy, yeah, this was not a fair outcome for him, in all honesty. Have you seen all the new dumb fans popping up saying, I don't know, man, Justin has a chance against Ilya if he makes it dirty? I mean, I hope they think that, and I hope they put a lot of money on that, because we're all going to make a lot of money then. Ilya was watching this fight with Lotion by his side, valid. Is it crazy that I think Farasiam would beat Paddy and maybe even Gaethje? Oh, not at all. I said the exact same thing, actually. I literally said Farasiam would have been neither of them. That's funny you chose the same name. But yeah, so overall, I didn't have the highest opinion of this event. Even though this was a fun fight, the fouls and the low skill level for a title fight kind of made it not great, in my opinion. And a lot of these fights disappointed, like Umar fight disappointed, Gaudier fight disappointed, Krylov fight disappointed. First few were good. So it's just like, not the greatest card, I should say. But hopefully this one's better. Let's move on to this event now. Alright. So starting with Aaron Tao versus Namzari Butbayar. I'm probably going to butcher some of the Asian names, so forgive me for that. So starting with Tao. Tao is basically an educated brawler, with the educated part being at times optional. Basically, he gets into the pocket with looping strikes and tries to just overwhelm you with volume and however much power he can generate, even though he doesn't have that much crazy power, in all honesty. He throws in a few calf kicks, but he's kind of just blasting it, and he'll go shin to shin, but he doesn't really have the ability to do like crazy damage because he's not timing it well, throwing it too technically, etc. His defense is not spectacular, the biggest problem being that it doesn't really exist. Sometimes he puts his hands up and like kind of pretends they're going to block something, and then just shots go straight through anyway. sometimes he moves his head a little bit. He's going to just eat like 80% of the shots you throw at him, in all honesty, though. He is relatively durable, though. I don't know of a time of him being like dropped or knocked out or anything like that. He definitely can be taken down relatively easily, but he will scramble to a single leg shot well, so he is good at getting up over and over and kind of like gassing out his opponent that way. Moving on to Botbayar. Botbayar is an extremely dynamic striker. He's going to throw pretty much like any type of strike you could think of, from spinning hook kicks, flying knees, like he'll keep going into the bag of tricks, so like every strike he throws will be unique. It's a very fun style to watch, to say the least. He has a karate-like stance. He kind of jumps in and out of range to get his distance and such. He has good reactive double leg takedowns as well. So if you try to react to him jumping in and out and countering something, he'll just shoot right below that, get to the takedown, and then try to get to transition to the back immediately. His back takes are very clean for someone who is an extremely dynamic striker. So he is surprisingly well-rounded, and not in the negative connotation I usually use that term. He's actually good at everything. His biggest issue is that he can get caught when he is throwing looping shots. He is one of these guys who always wants to finish his opponents, and because of that, he will start loading up, and he can get caught as he loads up, and that will get him into a little bit of trouble. He does switch stances a lot, so he changes the angles he is throwing things at, and that can make it very difficult for his opponents to react and start to get a read on him. So, Botbayar hits much harder here, and is definitely more intelligent, but I will say that his style is less polished at the moment. I do think a submission win for him is a bit more likely than TKO, because he will jump on the back if he hurts someone and then try to choke them out from there, instead of just like trying to hit them until they actually get knocked out. So I am going to predict Botbayar by submission. I do think that Botbayar was one of these guys that in 3-ish years might look spectacular, but I don't know if he's going to get there. So we'll have to see if he's someone who like is actually going to reach his full potential or not. All right, moving on to Sulan Grombo versus Lu. Let me think. Here we go. So Sulan Grombo is basically a outside sniper style striker. He's just going to circle, be extremely patient, and just pick at you on the outside, wait for you to make mistakes and counter you there. He does most of his work with 1-2s and quick combos. He does also have very good timing with the uppercut, and he is good at understanding when you're going to shoot and forcing you to shoot into the uppercut. Because he doesn't overcommit, his takedown defense will look very good, but it is hard to say if it's his takedown defense that's good or if it's just his distance management is good, and if someone actually gets to his hips, it might be a problem. So he is a little bit untested in that sense. Lu is a relatively well-rounded and fundamentally sound fighter. Like when you watch him fight, it looks correct, if you get what I mean. He has good chain wrestling, and he has a strong ability to use his striking to set up the wrestling. He's going to use a variety of wrestling entries and finishes. So sometimes he'll shoot on the single leg, sometimes the double leg, and he will switch the type of takedown mid-transition and then try to finish with a throw, finish with like even a lat drop, something along those lines. He will use a high guard most of the time and basic boxing combinations to try to get into the pocket. He will also work on elbows to punish bad entries if you are reckless with how you throw. On the ground, he is mainly just trying to utilize ground and pound. His control hasn't been spectacular, and we haven't really seen submissions out of him. He can definitely do damage with the ground and pound, though. He tends to get caught in wild moments or just random weird mistakes on the feet. So, like, I think it was in his first road to UFC fight where he just threw a really obvious naked calf kick and got sat down because of that. So, Lu really needs to get this into close range. Sulan Grombo is probably just going to move around the outside and outpoint him constantly. So I am going to say that Sulan Grombo wins the decision here. There is a bit of finishing upside on Sulan Grombo also, because if Lu starts panic shooting from further and further away when he can't do work with the boxing, Lu will start to time the uppercut. So I would not be shocked with either a finish or a decision, but I am going to lean decision. All right, moving on to Keiichiro Nakamura versus Sebastian Slay. So Soleil is essentially a pure boxer who just throws a few other things in occasionally. He has a very short reach for the weight class. He effectively has a WMMA reach. So he needs to get onto the inside, and he will throw combinations in to get into the inside. He works the body relatively well, and in all honesty, he doesn't have a choice because he needs to be so close due to his reach. He does seem to have decent wrestling fundamentals. We haven't really seen him go to the wrestling much, at least in road to the UFC, so it is very hard to say. He did get a knockout in his last fight, but other than that, he's been going the distance with like absolute cans. So I think it's fair to say that he doesn't really have much power, even if he is fairly technically sound. Nakamura, on the other hand, is a McGregor-inspired karate stylist, basically. But he will throw a lot more looping shots than McGregor. He does like the same entries, but instead of like McGregor's left cross, he'll throw a left overhand. He has pretty good head movement defensively, but he definitely does keep his chin up. So if you do get him moving backwards, it is possible to catch him. He does have very quick reactions to takedowns and seemingly pretty good wrestling fundamentals as well, but that's even less tested than Slay, so we really don't know. These two fighters are two of the least tested in Road to the UFC finale, in my opinion, so take the prediction with a grain of salt there. I am going to lean towards Nakamura here, because I do think that Nakamura has a lot more potential as a fighter. He has a lot more finishes. He's a lot faster. He's a lot more athletic. And of course, he has a much longer reach. Nakamura, despite throwing everything into every shot as well, has showed solid cardio. He can do it over 3 rounds. So knowing that, I don't think that Slay is going to be able to work his way into the inside and just use his combinations there. So Nakamura should be able to catch him on the outside. I am going to lean towards Nakamura by decision, even though most people are picking him by knockout if they are picking it, is I do think that Zalei is technically sound enough that Nakamura is not going to find a massive shot, but Nakamura definitely probably has the more knockout potential of the two of them in this fight. So yeah, Nakamura by decision. We'll see how this one goes. It should be interesting. All right. Moving on to Sungwook Kim versus Don Marfan. So this is an interesting fight in that the public perception is actually very different than what the odds seem to suggest. So starting with Fan, or Fan, I don't know which it is, I'm just going to say Fan. He is mainly a grappler who likes body lock takedowns. He really times the wrestling off of his opponent's reactions. He tends not to be really proactive in how he creates the situations, which can leave instances where he's waiting a lot on the outside for someone to make a mistake. So it can be a little bit of an awkward low volume situation. On top, he is mainly throwing elbows or looking to take the back. Once he does take the back, he will look to lock up the rear naked choke, but he doesn't have an especially good rear naked choke, so he ends up just controlling a lot of the time. At range, he is mainly throwing kicks, a lot of them are teeps. He has a questionable gas tank, he is slowed down in round 3 very commonly, and he also has been a little bit submission prone. He has very questionable wrestling defense as well. He's gotten taken down a lot. I think he got taken down 3 times even in his last win, and let me look at this to confirm. Let's see. I took down 4 times in his last fight. His other fight, the striking was harder, but he did well in the takedown defense, I should say. But he got taken down 4 times by someone who's probably not the best grappler in all honesty. So he doesn't have the best wrestling defense, and he also does not have the greatest striking defense. He tends to just eat a lot of stuff. It's definitely a very undeveloped part of his game, to say the absolute least. Moving on to Kim. So Kim has basically the stereotypical Terminator style. He just pressures, gets into your face, keeps throwing things, tries to the way he gets takedowns is he just grabs you and tries to throw you to the ground. It's not overly technical, but it is fairly effective. He does not have striking defense. It just doesn't exist. He just walks forwards and bomb strikes. He is just trying to break his opponent at all times. He has a variety of takedowns technically speaking, but as I was saying, they're all strength oriented. So it's even if he's grabbing a single leg, he'll like grab the single leg and then either try to lift you up or just like toss you to the ground while he's like pulling on the leg. On the grounds, he will jump on a darce or just ground and pound until someone gives up their back. So he definitely has a larger variety of techniques on the ground than Fan, even if Fan is probably slightly more technically sound if he gets his opponent on the ground. This is a little bit of a tough one to call. So the public sentiment is that this should be easy for Fan here. The odds are fairly close, and I actually think that the getting taken down so easily in his last fight and the fact that he slowed down a lot is going to be problematic for Fan here, because against Kim, who's just going to pressure you the entire 15 minutes if possible, eventually it's going to cost you. So I do think that Fan might have a good round 1, maybe even a round 2 here, but as he's forced to use more and more energy and Kim just keeps moving forwards and trying to finish him, I do think Kim will eventually find the position to get the finish. I am going to lean Kim by submission, but it could definitely be a ground and pound TKO. It could even be a knockout on the feet because Kim has the more power on the feet, to say the least. So yeah, technically speaking, Kim by submission, but we'll see what happens here. It should be a fun fight. Is this pre-recorded? No, it is not. I'm going through the card a little bit faster than I normally do. We'll do more questions at the end. I did the recap instead of the questions at the beginning this time. We'll see how the format differs. All right, moving on to Ofli versus Yizha. So Kaan Ofli is a grappler, and he's usually more of a control grappler, even though, of course, sometimes he gets his submissions. On the feet, he tends to just pump out the jab and some distance tools, but he isn't really a threat in any capacity on the feet. He at least does not overcommit, so his defense is technically like decently sound. I would just say that Ofli is not UFC level. Like, Ofli's one UFC win was against Ricardo Ramos, and it was an extremely dirty performance. He grabbed the fence, like, I think 3 times, even in as short a fight as that is. One of those times being to escape a submission attempt. So, yeah, I feel like if you grab the fence to escape from a submission attempt, I feel like that needs to be an instant DQ, because you essentially just bought yourself like a get out of jail free card if you don't get DQ'd there, if you get what I mean. Anyways, moving on to Yizha. Yizha is a high-paced wrestler who will basically just shoot repetitively over and over for the entirety of the fight. On the feet, he will enter with the cross. If he's throwing a combo, he'll throw cross into hook usually. He tends to just crash into the pocket. After his first few strikes, he'll just keep spamming hooks there until he exits. His shots are mainly double legs. He will adjust if he needs to in the clinch and then try to finish with, say, a throw or something like that. If he gets a takedown, he is very aggressive. He will literally dive on submissions, usually arm bars. He doesn't really defend takedowns at all. He kind of just scrambles afterwards, which isn't necessarily something you want to see in the UFC, even if it works on the whole road to UFC level. I have obviously a very low opinion of Ofli, but this is the best stylistic matchup he can hope for, in all honesty, because Yizha might take some bad shots, even if he gets Ofli down, may just jump for an armbar that's not there and let Ofli get on top. And Ofli could possibly secure his own takedowns because Yizha is not going to defend them. Now, that being said, I'm still going to pick Yizha because he's younger, he's a better fighter overall, and I do think he is actually UFC level, even if he's not like the highest UFC level. But I'm not terribly confident here. So I'm going to say Yizha decision, but we'll see what happens. And I feel like people are wildly confident just because Ofli is bad, but you do have to consider the matchup, and this could be a bit of a tricky one for Yizha. All right, since we're done with prelims, I'll answer a few questions. How do you know so much? Have you competed or trained in MMA? I have trained in combat sports almost my entire life, so some of that comes with the business, to say the least. I have trained with some pretty high-level guys. I've never competed in full MMA, but I have competed in striking-only stuff. Ofli via CCP executing Yizha, jeez. How bad would Charles do Patty? It would be very bad, yeah. I mean, that would not be a competitive fight whatsoever. Oh yeah, I'll do my first promo for the card because I always forget. If you guys are betting on this card, do feel free to check out my betting service. We did 250 units in profit last year, and that is not even counting the lottery parlays. We hit 2 lottery parlays just doing them the last few months of the year. Lottery parlays, by our definition, are plus 20,000 or higher odds parlays. I believe both of them that hit last year were in the plus 30,000s. So if you count that, we're way above the 250 units of profit for last year. So if you guys are interested, you're betting on this card, it's only $25 a month. Link is in the description. Always feel free to DM me with questions on Instagram as well. Thoughts on Aniki MMA? I'm not sure what that is, to be honest. Am I crazy for thinking Rebovix beats up Patty? No, you're not crazy. It's very possible. On Ofli is just Volk without any of the skills. Fair. How does it feel that we are now best friends with Big John Silva? I mean, it's definitely satisfying to have a follow from a large fighter, because that was the first one of that size. Thiago Moises does follow me. That was my second largest, but he's not quite of the same notoriety, if you get what I mean. What's a unit? It is basically a standardized betting measurement so that we're not talking in dollars, because everyone has a different budget, so talking in dollars wouldn't really make sense. So I do units as 1 unit equals 1% of your current sportsbook budget. Is Umar's style just built for nothing interesting to happen? I mean, it seems like it, but I also think it's a skill issue. I think he's just not good at finishing fights. What is Salkild's ceiling? We'll get to that when I talk about Salkilld. I'll go into him a little bit more. Can Easy Speed still outmatch Pfeiffer's pressure and power? What do you think? I'm leaning towards no. Also, me putting my life savings on Elekana. I mean, he's not reliable enough for that, in my opinion, but I do understand betting on him for sure. Would you pick Bahamondes if you replaced Ortega against Hernando? Honestly, I don't know. I'd have to look back at how his takedown defense was doing against Fiziev. Would you take PFL Usman to beat Gaethje and or Patty? That's a good question. I would probably take him to beat Patty. I don't think I would take him to beat Gaethje. Quick Nolan versus Moicano analysis. Nolan has to keep things simple and just keep blasting the knee up the middle and such. If he does that, I think he does get Moicano out of there pretty early. If he decides, oh, I'm going to start spamming spinning kicks again, okay, he's going to get taken down and mauled. When watching a fight, how do I understand grappling better? That is tough if you don't have the grappling knowledge yourself. You really do have to know what the positions mean. So I do recommend, even if you're not a grappler, do learn at least the cursory grappling stuff so that you can understand what is happening. You think Vallejos and Silva will meet again? I don't think so, to be honest. John Core, Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler. Nolan versus Moicano was confirmed fake by Nolan. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, so we'll move on to the main card, and don't worry, I'll get to questions after we finish with the main card as well. We're going pretty quickly since this isn't the highest quality card in all honesty, so I assume we'll definitely have more time for questions than usual. So, moving on to Micallef versus Oban Elliott. So, starting with Micallef. Micallef, technically, his best strength is grappling, but he is relatively well-rounded. He is a southpaw, so on the feet he uses a lot of round kicks. He will just blast round kicks to different targets constantly. His punches are mainly 1-2s, or if he is forced to, he will spam hooks in the pocket. He has a variety of takedowns, but he likes getting them from inside the clinch. He can turn positions in his favor, even if it started badly for him, that he will get taken down, his opponent will be inside control, and he'll just find a way to reverse it, get to a single leg, take them down, and then lock up a submission. He's very comfortable jumping for submissions. So we saw in the Contender Series fight, he had a very clean transition to a triangle choke that I would like to see him try again, in all honesty. He is a little bit slow, but he is very strong and powerful, which does kind of make up for it. His biggest issue is his cardio is definitely questionable, which makes sense given his build. He definitely has a lot of power, but slowing down in round 3 in UFC is not something you can afford to do long term. Oban Elliott is mainly a rangy point striker, although he will throw in the grappling just to mix things up usually. He uses long jabs and overhands and spinning back kicks to try to maintain distance. He is fairly good at using over and underhooks in the clinch to control position, but he does not have the most power in general, we saw the random finish against, what's his name? The guy who was like very obviously juicing. You guys know who I'm talking about. I'm forgetting his name. But other than that, he hasn't had power, and that guy was just a fraud anyway, so that is what it is. He does have issues with low kicks. He just seemingly doesn't see them coming, so he gets blasted by them a lot. And he does have problems just being outpowered and techniqued in the pocket. So if you just spam hooks there with Elliott, because he isn't the most powerful, he's going to be forced to back off. And if you get into the clinch with him and you have better technique there, like Cody did, then you could just constantly get him down because he doesn't really understand how to disengage from there. Elliott is probably mildly more technical, but it does feel like here the Micallef is probably going to have the better moments. Even if he doesn't get a finish, I do think he is alive for a submission here, because if it gets to the ground, I don't think Elliott has dealt with someone with Micallef's submission ability. But even on the feet, Micallef has a much longer reach than Elliott, like a surprising amount when I checked. Let me confirm here what the difference is. Yeah, Micallef has a 77-inch reach, and Elliott has a 72-inch reach. And yet, like, Elliott tries to fight super long, which is going to be a problem for him here, because if Micallef just moves around on the outside and just keeps blasting the jab, Elliott's not going to be able to use his long-distance tools. So it does feel like this is a pretty good matchup for Micallef, and because of that, I would like to see him try to take more risks and go for the finish. I also just realized reach is here. I have no idea why I'm switching to the stats page for it, but yeah, so I'm going to say Micallef wins a decision, but I would like to see him chase a submission and see what happens. Basel Hafez, yeah. All right, Jacob Malkoun versus Torrez Finney. This is either going to be a very entertaining matchup or a very boring matchup, and I'm leaning towards probably very boring, but I will get to the one circumstance where it may not be. So, starting with Malkoun. Malkoun is a chain wrestler with decent grappling. On the feet, pretty much all he does is jab. He will very, very occasionally follow up a jab with a cross, but usually he will just jab, move around, jab, and just do that for 15 minutes if he needs to. He likes to shoot in on a single leg and chain wrestle from there. On the ground, his threat is mainly with elbows. He doesn't really have any submissions in his pocket from what we've seen, at least. Torrez Finney is just a wrestler. He's got nothing else. He doesn't have BJJ. He doesn't know how to like hook the leg or do anything to maintain control. On the feet, he just has nothing. Like, he'll throw out bait overhands that are going to hit air very obviously just to try to get you to raise your hand so he could shoot under, but nothing that's actually going to do damage. And every takedown he shoots is the double leg. So he's just going to shoot on a double leg, try to lift you up and slam you down. That's all he's going to do over and over for the entire fight. Once the fight is on the ground, he has absolutely no idea what to do. So this is a very weird fight in that there's a lot of different ways this could go. There is a small chance that their wrestling cancels out completely, and we end up with one of the worst striking fights of all time. And by worst striking fights of all time, I mean they might make Maya versus Askren look like high-level striking, because these guys do not know how to strike. However, I do think that Finney's wrestling is a little bit better, and because of that, we are going to see him get the takedowns and just have enough control time that judges ignore the terrible striking on the feet and end up just scoring the control time. Finney's double leg style is probably going to be a little bit better against Malkoun than Malkoun's single leg style is going to be against Finney. So I do think this matchup is Finney favored. Hopefully Finney has actually progressed and worked on his finishing ability. I have heard from a lot of different people that this entire camp Finney has just been working on ground and pound and such a ton. So maybe he comes in with a better suited finishing skill set, let's say, I guess. But I'm not really counting on it. I'm just going to say Finney sneaks out a close decision where everyone just hates their life after watching it. Finney makes Marab look like Prime Lawler. Valid. I originally picked Malkoun, but the more tape I watch, I think Finney's wrestling is still very good, and I think he'll take down Malkoun. Yeah, I agree. How old is Finney again? There's no way he hasn't at least figured out ground and pound since his last fight. That's a good question. How old is Finney? Is, what is that? Like 27-ish? Something in that range. I mean, I don't know. He has not figured out grappling as of last fight, so we'll see if anything happens. What is the outcome where Finney versus Malkoun could be entertaining? Oh yeah, the outcome where it could be entertaining is if one of them is actually so much better in the wrestling and we're not aware of this. So like, let's say Finney is actually just that much better in the wrestling with Malkoun, where he can just ragdoll him and like semi-easily get to a position where he can land ground and pound. Okay, that might be interesting to see if someone has progressed. But otherwise, I don't think that it is going to happen, to say the least. Anyways, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not high on this fight. We'll move on. Give me a second. I'm just going to drink some water. My throat's getting very dry. All right, moving on to Cam Rowston versus Cody Brundage. Rowston started off more as a grappler, but he's definitely evolved into a solid striker. He has a ton of length for the weight class, to say the absolute least. He calls himself the battle giraffe for a reason. He starts out by using his length to throw a lot of kicks and pump the jab on the outside. He will look to throw the cross over the top once it opens up. He is very prone to calf kicks because of his height and the fact that he can't react very quickly because of that. He did show a very good check left hook against Petrosky, so it could mean that his counters are evolving, but we'll have to see him do it again to be sure, because Petrosky is Petrosky, to say the least. Brundage is primarily a wrestler, but he does have power in his hands. He mainly shoots blast double legs and tries to throw heavy ground and pound. On the feet, he just explodes in with overhands and hooks, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes he gets punished for naked calf kicks. So we did see in his last fight, he basically got dropped off of a calf kick. I did honestly think that he got robbed in that fight, but it's also not an opponent that you want to be going to a close decision with, so that is what it is. Brundage is not spectacular anywhere. I would say that, honestly, his athleticism is probably his greatest attribute, but he's just not very good at using it. I am going to go with Rowston by TKO here. But I will say I am slightly worried that he's just going to get blasted by an overhand and finish early. And that's because he stands so straight up and kind of like relies on his height as a defense that Brundage's style of just like running at you and launching the overhand definitely could like fluke a finish here. So I am going to say Rowston gets it done early, but do watch out for like a potential very quick Brundage finish. Although hopefully not, because that would be terrible and just kill off a prospect while keeping Brundage in the UFC when he's kind of proven that he shouldn't be there, in all honesty. No clue how Brundage is still signed. I feel like they're worried that they're going to get sued if they cut him because of the whole like DQ situations and such. So they keep needing to like look for more and more excuses to be able to cut him, but then he actually like wins a fight or has a controversial decision like last fight. Then they're like, oh, damn it, we can't cut him now. So that he still sticks around. It's so bad. Anyways, okay, moving on to Junior Tafa versus Billy Elekana. So, starting with Junior Tafa, he is, theoretically speaking, a high-level kickboxer. He uses his jab and teeps at range. In the pocket, he uses mainly overhands and a variety of other looping shots. He did well at striking in heavyweight, mainly because of the speed discrepancy. Once he got into the pocket, he could really just light guys up. He is very calf kick prone, and was finished by the calf kick once because he seemingly did not know what the concept of checking was. He has absolutely no idea what to do in wrestling or grappling whatsoever. He is literally like a fish out of water there. not even like a fish out of water. It's like a fish thrown into a landlocked state and just thrown onto like the desert. Elekana is technically a rangy striker, but he is pretty well rounded now, and he's been incorporating his wrestling a lot more. He pokes at range with a variety of kicks and long punches. He tries to counter people when they are coming in to deal actual damage. He does have a solid blast double leg takedown, and while he is not a BJJ black belt, he can definitely take the back and sub people or control them for an extended period of time there. As long as Elekana grapples, he should take this. He might even be able to just outbox him on the outside, in all honesty. Hopefully Elekana has at least lukewarm fight IQ, because there is a world in which, like, for some reason he decides he's just going to try to knock out Tafa in the pocket, and that goes very badly for him. So I'm going to say Elekana by submission, but this is one of these fights where it's like, you could definitely see this guy messing things up, to say the least. So we'll see how this one goes, but Elekana should submit him in round 1 if he just sticks to a game plan, shoots a takedown pretty quickly after poking at range a bit. All right. Salkilld versus Jamie Mullarkey. So I'm going to say the obvious verdict before I even do the breakdown. So I will do the breakdown anyways, but the obvious verdict, Salkilld's going to kill him probably in round 1. Probably TKO, could be a submission. Salkilld definitely was more of a submission guy in the past. He has started using his hands and feet, I guess, more. But yeah, I wouldn't count out the fact that he could possibly just take Mullarkey down and sub him. Although I do think, given Mullarkey's paper-mache chin, the easiest path to victory is just land anything on him and he'll probably go out. But getting into the breakdown, Salkilld is a very kick-heavy wrestler. He does have power, but his goal is to wrestle, and if he can take that path to victory, he will. Kicks often help to open up the takedowns, but he's not really good at like chaining the two of them like BSD does. So it's kind of like, oh, he's just confusing you with the kicks on the takedowns, not using them together. Most of his takedowns are double legs. On the ground, he is extremely aggressive. He'll attack with ground and pound, but sometimes he does get reversed because he's a little bit too aggressive. On the feet, he has okay offensive boxing, but his defense leaves a lot to be desired. Like, his coaches are literally yelling at him in the fight to keep his hands up, which is never a good sign. So I have the opinion of Salkilld that, well, he has potential, right? He has all the attributes to be good. At the moment, he is kind of a fraud. He's nowhere near as good as people think he is. He got the win over Nazareth. Fair enough to him, good read, the head kick was open. But we do have to look at the fact that he was getting styled on until then. He was taking like terrible takedown attempts. He was getting hit by pretty much everything Nazareth was throwing. It's just not a good sign for the future, because I don't rate Nazareth that highly, even if I did think Nazareth was going to beat him. So Salkilld definitely has to evolve the defense and get much better wrestling setups, because I have no idea what he was doing against Nazareth. Anyways, moving on to Mullarkey. Mullarkey is a distance striker who will use takedowns to mix things up, generally speaking. He tries to use a lot of in and out movement. He'll pop the jab while darting in. He'll throw a lot of kicks at distance. He'll throw the overhand after it's been set up by the jabs and such. His best success with takedowns is the body lock usually, but he will attempt single and double legs. It just usually doesn't work. As I was saying before, his biggest liability is the fact that he cannot take a punch to save his life. I think he is the only person in the UFC to be dropped by, what's his name? Not Gaffarov, the other one. Naimov, yeah. Naimov and Gaffarov, they beat on the same card, so I get confused between the two of them. But, yeah, so he's literally the only person in the UFC to get dropped by Naimov, and then he ended up getting knocked out by him. So yeah, that is impressive, especially when Naimov was up a weight class and on short notice. So yeah, if you missed the beginning for some reason, Salkilld should get around 1 TKO. But unless Salkilld significantly improves, I'm not the highest on him in general. He almost got finished by Ashmus as well. Yeah, that was a very, very bad showing for him. He gassed terribly in that fight, and his defense after round 2 was just abysmal. First dude to get flatlined by Volk, yeah. Alright, moving on to Tuivasa versus Teixeira. So Tuivasa is just a heavyweight brawler, basically. He'll throw hard calf kicks on the outside, but without any setup, he's just slamming them. He tries to get into the pocket and throw hooks. He will enter with a hard cross sometimes, but it is usually just to cover distance and then spam the hooks. He has no real takedown defense or ground game. If you get him there, you will probably finish him. He doesn't have any defense in general, in all honesty. His defense is his chin, which in the past did hold up pretty well. But over time, it could just be that he's fighting harder hitters, or it could be that his chin is starting to give out on him, but it's not lasting, and he's getting rocked and finished a lot more easily than he seemingly used to in the past. Teixeira is an extremely rangy striker who can grapple as well. He throws long jabs on the outside and a lot of calf kicks. In the clinch, he will look for knees and elbows. His takedown defense hasn't really been tested, so it's hard to say, but Tuivasa is not going to be the one to test it here. A lot of his defense involves movement, which is a little risky. He's going to basically slide in with a 1-2, and then kind of just try to move backwards, lean away from his opponent if he needs to, and just not use a high guard at all. His biggest problem is that he doesn't reset properly after throwing, so he's vulnerable sometimes. He will move in to throw, and then when he's supposed to either be moving out, ducking to the side, something like that, he's just there to get hit right afterwards. So on the Contender Series, he had no idea what to do when his opponent just blitzed in. So for his sake, hopefully he has fixed that, because he has a lot of attributes, and not even just attributes, he has a lot of skills, right? His finish over Justin Tafa, when he was able to get him in the clinch and just light him up with the knees and then knock him out with the elbow, was very impressive. So it showed he's not just a range merchant. Like, he has clinch skills as well, but he doesn't seem to know what to do in the intermediate range, which is the biggest problem for him. So in terms of the prediction, I do have to pick Teixeira here. Obviously, Tuivasa is on a massive losing streak. We don't really know Tuivasa's dedication, all of that stuff. But I'm not as confident as I thought I would be, because if Tuivasa does just blitz in, I mean, Teixeira is there to get hit, and obviously Tuivasa is a lot better in the pocket than anyone Teixeira has fought before. So I would not be shocked if Tuivasa was able to get a knockout here, even though this should be Teixeira. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes. It should be interesting to see if Teixeira has evolved or not. Moving on to Fiziev versus Ruffy. So Fiziev is a Muay Thai striker who is very kick focused. He is very fast and he throws a lot of powerful round kicks with and without the switch. Punching is what you would expect for a Muay Thai practitioner. It's mainly preemptive combos. There's not much reactive countering. It also tends to be pretty stiff. He'll catch something on the high guard and sometimes return, kind of like Quillan style, which is as close as he gets to, say, counters, but it's not the most fluid in general. When he does wrestle, it's usually just mixing in blast double legs. Once he gets on top, he doesn't really have anything significant there. He did get close to like the inverted triangle against Gaethje, but he didn't seem to know how to finish it, so it didn't really proceed. He has the traditional problems that Muay Thai practitioners has. He gasses out because he's way too stiff when he throws, and because he is so proactive in striking, once you can get him, say, backing up or reacting, he tends to have a lot of problems, which is why Gaethje mixing in the dirty boxing was so difficult for Fiziev to deal with. Ruffy stands like a karate stylist, but he has a unique style with very explosive but low volume techniques, I guess you would say. His low volume mainly means that every shot that he throws is made to knock you out. His feints and distance finding shots are mainly just leg kicks, few jabs early, and then he starts trying to find the knockout. He will focus a lot on misdirection. He does have reads like John Silva to some degree, but he doesn't John Silva will kind of start tuning his reads as the fight goes along. So he will find your tendency, then he'll test punishing your tendency, and then if it doesn't work, he'll alter the speed at which he tries to punish it, or alter the angle, and so on. So we saw that against Jourdain, for example, right? With Jourdain's first blitz, he did throw the counter hook, but he wasn't planted enough, so he wasn't able to hurt him. So on the next counter hook, he shifts his weight, counters with his feet fully planted, and is able to drop him from there. Ruffy kind of just does the same thing, but from slightly different angles, not with really different timing or anything like that. The misdirection, though, is a very different element. Ruffy's movements are weird. Like, he will stutter step in different directions at odd times that mess with opponents and even, like, my breakdowns looking at it, because it's not stuff I'm used to seeing. He has probably the best rolling in the UFC. Like, even if you land a punch on him perfectly clean, a lot of the time he'll be able to roll with it so well that he takes no damage whatsoever. His biggest problem is that he does not do well with pressure. If you continuously back him up, if you force him in a situation where he has to counter, but his first big counter is not going to land, he kind of shuts down. He just doesn't know what to do from there, which is why BSD constantly mixing up the head kicks, the takedowns, and so on, just froze Ruffy to the point that he had pretty much no output in that fight. So, a lot of people are going with Fiziev here. I am leaning towards Fiziev being a trap here, because the reality is that Fiziev is probably not taking down Ruffy. BSD's taking down Ruffy is very different than Fiziev having a chance of taking him down. And on the feet, Ruffy is the more talented striker. He hits harder, he is faster, he is a bit more, what would be the word? Adaptable, let's say. So he's like, Fiziev is not really going to change his techniques. He's just going to throw the same stuff at slightly different times and just try to hit you blasting the same body kick for the 50th time. Ruffy will change. If he sees that you're going to be vulnerable to a spinning hook kick, he'll throw it. If he sees the left hook is there, he'll throw that, and so on. So I do think that Ruffy has the higher ceiling of the two of them here, and because of that, I do think he has a reasonable shot to find the knockout. I'm going to say Ruffy finds a knockout in round 1 and gets his hype back much more quickly than people expected. All right, moving on to Hooker versus BSD. So Dan Hooker is the old school, like, quote unquote true fighter, right? He just wants to fight. He doesn't really care where the fight is taking place. He wants to just throw punches, try to do damage, etc. He will use his range to pump out jabs and kicks. He is willing to brawl in the pocket and just spam hooks, which sometimes is going well for him, like it was in round 2 against Poirier. Sometimes not quite so much, like it was against Allen. He mainly does strike proactively as well. Not many reactive counters out of him. His best reactive movement used to be the knee up the middle. He used to be really good at understanding how to time that and catching people with it so he could put him away. The weird thing is he just seemingly stopped throwing it. We haven't seen him throw the knees up the middle in years now. I'm kind of just assuming it's not going to come, but we'll see if he tries to bring it back for this fight. He will use the guillotine threat or his length in general to try to defend takedowns. His takedown defense very, very much varies depending on the style of takedowns he's fighting. We saw against Gamrot, he was able to use his length to scramble back to the fence and try to work his way to the feet that way. But against Arman, because of the fact that both Gamrot and Arman were beating him to the hips so badly, and Arman's style is just more physical in terms of controlling the hips and getting posture, he just wasn't able to move at all. BSD is very reliant on the left kick. He will just spam it constantly. If you are in southpaw, he'll just blast it to the calf. If you're in orthodox, he'll throw it a ton to the body and then mix it up to the head. He will either try to push you against the fence or use kicks to get you to raise your guard and then shoot under. He can be a little bit too ambitious when going for positions and fall off. We did see that against Ruffy twice, though to be fair, Ruffy definitely showed good grappling defense. BSD's most underrated aspect of his game is the clinch game. In the clinch, we have never seen an opponent do better than him. He will just spam knees and elbows, and I think that he is so physically strong within the clinch that it's just hard for people to escape. On the outside, he's mainly going to enter with, say, a 1-2 and then spam hooks to try to use pace to break his opponent. His game planning has improved significantly under Nicholas Ott. So he is not the fighter that he was 3 or 4 fights ago. His last 2 fights have definitely shown a significant evolution. I think, very obviously here, BSD should start Hooker, right? Hooker's always going to have a chance with the knee, or even, say, with the guillotine, so you can never count him out fully, but BSD should be able to either use the kicks to get his guard up and shoot under, or even just get into the pocket and just spam the elbows. Like, I could see this being a brutal knockout where BSD just lands like 20 or 30 elbows in a row and puts Hooker away pretty badly. So I am going to say BSD sub round 1, but I also would not be surprised with the TKO here because people are really underestimating BSD's ability to just get in the clinch and maul someone there. BSD by decision, that would be interesting, but I do think it will be a finish. Why did you think the BSD was a nightmare matchup for Islam? So this got, to say the least, thrown into question during the whole Moicano fight because he got taken down very easily. But before that, and even after that, his ability to work back to the feet and defend takedowns in general has been very spectacular. His fundamentals of using like the butterfly guard and such, and being able to either reverse from there or just very easily work his way to the single leg and back to the feet, was something that could be a problem against Islam, especially because Islam backs straight up to the fence, which would work into BSD's favor trying to just get into the clinch and punish him there. So obviously post-Moicano fight, I'm not nearly as high on that fact because it does seem like, okay, maybe Sohan at a certain level can control BSD on the ground. But to be fair, BSD did not have a team that fight. He didn't have an actual camp. His coaches were just like random people who had no experience seemingly. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that was peak BSD, so maybe he can show better, but we would definitely need to see him defend more takedowns before I could say that with any confidence at this point. What percentage chance do you think Hooker can win? I want BSD to win. I mean, Hooker, I would say probably has a 10% chance. His Hooker is always live for, of course, the knees. And again, even maybe the guillotine. Like, I don't think I'll get that against BSD, but it's always possible. And do you think Chanko being able to balance on his third leg while kicking gives him a good chance to beat Islam? That's funny. BSD or Armin and Charles? I think BSD Charles is actually very 50-50 because I just don't know if Charles's chin can take BSD shots if he lands at all. Like, BSD is slow, but he is powerful. On the flip side, obviously, Oliveira is a lot more technical in the grappling aspect and does have enough power that if BSD is just eating shots, it's not going to go well for him. So I do think that is very 50. Very 50. All right. Moving on to the main event. So my opinion of this fight changed very significantly in the last. So starting with Volkanovski. Volkanovski is one of the most well-rounded fighters in the UFC, potentially even in UFC history. He kicks a lot on the outside. He will blast calf kicks if it's safe to, then start to come up to the body. He uses quick combinations with good head movement to stay out of danger, and his biggest standout is his speed. He moves very quickly for 145. It is actually a very underrated aspect of his game. He can be underrated in extended pocket combos, and of course to the head kick, which we have unfortunately seen numerous times now. His wrestling is mainly double leg oriented. On the ground, he's just going to look for ground and pound. He's just going to blast, usually not even elbows. It's usually just like crosses essentially on the ground, but he never really looks for subs. So moving on to Lopes. Lopes is dangerous in all positions and does continue to become more well-rounded to his credit. He throws hard calf kicks on the outside, but doesn't really have any significant setup, unlike with Volkanovski. Lopes, for those of you who have seen my Instagram reel on it, he likes to slip a shot and then throw a two-punch combination in return. If you throw an overhand, if you throw a cross against him, he's going to slip inside, then try to come over with the overhands and throw the left hook. If you throw an overhand at him, he will slip and come up with the uppercut and then the left hook. To visualize it, I showed it better in the reel, so if you haven't seen that, I do suggest looking at it. Lopes will just brawl in the pocket if he can get there, to be fair. He does have very good uppercuts in the clinch and is very good at generating power with very small amounts of space. Lopes also will certainly jump for submissions. He does have the flying triangle that turned into a triangle armbar, I believe, and against Evloev, he did go for multiple submissions as well. So, my initial thought when looking at this fight was that, okay, Lopes in the first fight had the two biggest moments, and Lopes has much more room to improve than Volkanovski does at this point. So seeing as the first fight was close and Lopes potentially could have had him out of there 2 times, giving Lopes another 25 minutes to find a time to catch Volk is probably going to result in him finding the moment to catch Volk. But then when I was watching the film and I was making my reels on it, I was just realizing how much better of a fighter Volk is than Lopes. Like, if you look at, again, what I was looking at my most recent reel, Volkanovski knew the exact combos that Lopes was going to throw and moved perfectly to defend every aspect of it and had multiple combinations set up so that he could use whatever he needed to in the moment to evade everything Lopes was going to throw at him and do damage in return. The only mistake Volk really made in the fight was his tendency to pull straight backwards after the jab, because he leans back to try to, like, also something I put more eloquently in my reels, but basically he overextends a little bit on his jab. He has to lean back to evade a counter. Because he has to lean backwards, his chin goes up, he has to step straight back. If you throw something after your first counter, you definitely can catch him and put him down there, which is how Lopes caught him in round 2. I feel like Volkanovski adjusting to not do that, though, and make a few more better patterns in order to beat Lopes here is going to be a lot easier than Lopes, like, completely evolving his style to somehow be able to match Volkanovski's technical ability here. So I am going to pick Volkanovski by decision. I do actually think it is probably going to be more concrete than last time. I think this might be like a 50-45, 50-44 type of decision. And I do actually even think that Volk might be live for a TKO here, because I do think we might be overrating Lopes's durability a little bit. I know that because he, of course, survived the first Volk fight, survived the Silva fight, and so on, it's tempting to say he has an iron chin. But he was getting hurt very badly in both of those fights. Like, Volkanovski, if he had another 10-15 seconds in round 1 of their first fight, he might have had a ground and pound TKO there. Silva, had he not rushed and got elbowed, it looked like he was like between 5 and 7 strikes of putting Lopes away there. Lopes has also been someone who has been flatline KO'd before. So I don't think that he is like this Vittori chin like a lot of people are making it out to seem like. So I would not be shocked with an early Volkanovski TKO win here. We'll see what happens. I do think Volkanovski decision is the most likely play. But again, because of his age and such, and the fact that Lopes only needs one shot, I'm not wildly confident. This definitely could be a Lopes TKO. I am excited to see how this one does play out. Would you score the first fight? I think I had it 49, 46. Volk didn't evolve after the Ilya fight, and that was the exact fall he got finished for. So there's a misconception that he got finished in the Ilya fight for this issue. It wasn't this issue. It was a semi-related issue, but it's not something that you're going to affiliate in the same way, which is why I understand why it didn't get fixed. So in the Ilya fight, he basically got caught in his tendency to move straight back to the fence at times, right? Like, if you're properly pairing strikes against him, he will move straight back to the fence, especially as you get him moving backwards in the straight line to start with. So unlike the whole jab punish, where it's like, oh, we're going to punish right after he starts in a straight line, Ilya punished like, oh, I'm going to get you moving back in the straight line. Then I'm going to use that to push you fully back to the fence and then catch you there. So it was a bit of a different situation, but I do understand what you mean. Is it possible that he can't finish it at this point and it's just ingrained in his style? Yeah, for sure. It's possible, but we'll see. Given your new take on Volk, how do you think him versus John goes? And would that change with the prime Volk? So I do think with Volkanovski now, John would still probably put him away. If we're talking about a prime Volkanovski, that's a lot more interesting. Because I do think that John is... The biggest problem is I don't think Volkanovski has the ability to put away John early. And I think especially if we get into round 3 and 4, Silva would just get very dangerous for him. The reads would just get more and more accurate until it wouldn't be able to work. Lopes has been flatline KO'd before, but so has Rodtang. Rodtang's was against much more powerful strikers, though. Lopes's was against a random Kaan. How good is Ilya Toporia's grappling, really? I mean, we haven't seen it terribly tested, but it's looked very technical. Thoughts on Ruffy leaving the fighting nerds? I mean, he didn't really leave the fighting nerds. He's just cross-training. And a lot of them cross-train, so it's not really a big deal. Until Lopes learns to put slipping and moving into his combinations, I can't pick him to be any of the top guys. It's predictable style. Of a style to beat, yes. It was after a jab, though. Volk threw a jab, and then body, head, and then the KO. It was after a jab, but Volk got to reset is the difference. Yes, Volk jabbed and then moved back, but he did reset his feet, and then Ilya started the combo. So it's a little bit different because it wasn't during the reset. When was even Prime Volk? Probably like 4 or 5 years ago. Do you agree that Holloway would batter BSD? I mean, we'll have to see how BSD comes out this fight. He's been looking better and better. If he looks the same as he did 2 fights ago, yeah, I agree for sure. But we'll have to see. Do you think Diego Lopes can push the pace and make Volk go on the back foot? He could, but Volk is relatively comfortable there, so I don't think that's a problem. Oh yeah, one more time. So if you guys are betting on this event, do consider looking at my betting service. We were up over 250 units last year. That is just on the base algorithm. That is not even counting the fact that we hit 2 plus 30,000 parlays and plenty of other parlays that aren't even in like the public advertising I do. So the link is in the description for that. Only $25 a month. Always feel free to DM me on Instagram with any questions. Back to questions here. Honestly, Diego didn't even make adjustments to his head movement or footwork at all in the Silva fight. Impressive finish and very dominant round 1, but he didn't show that Diego could beat Volk. Yeah, I agree. And I do think that, honestly, I think that a lot of reactions to that fight are like, okay, people don't like Silva. That's fine, right? People are always going to disparage Silva if they can, just because they dislike it. That is what it is. But like 99% of the stand-up in that fight was Silva just battering Lopes. So it just was not the greatest look, to say the least. You summarize your picks again? Yeah, sure. All right, we are going Botbayar by submission, Sung Grombo by decision, Nakamura by decision, Kim by late submission, Yizha by decision, Micallef by decision, Finney by decision, Rowston by TKO, Elekana by submission, Salkilld by TKO, Teixeira by TKO, Ruffy by TKO, BSD by submission, and Volkanovski by decision. You're high on BSD, aren't you? I've always been pretty high on BSD. I do think he has a lot of potential. Aaron Tao did an interview with Australian media, and he said he got knocked out 3 times in a row on a night out drinking 2 weeks before his last road to UFC fight. Will this affect durability? I mean, yeah, concussions aren't good for durability, I guess. That's he got knocked out 3 times in one night. That's wild. That's yeah, that's not good for you. Lopes versus Ilya, what happens? Ilya will chin him within a round. Is it crazy to bet money on Tuivasa KO TKO? Is it crazy in terms of like, you could argue it has value? You definitely could argue it has value. But I just can't trust Tuivasa with anything. You don't gotta like Silva, but Silva was definitely destroying Lopes on the feet. Diego was landing 2 shots while John landed 10 clean on his shin. Yeah, agreed. Oliveira versus Dariush grappling match. I do actually favor Oliveira there. I think Dariush is good, but not quite that good. Do you still think Ilya versus John is a 50-50 fight or no? If so, then why? I favor Ilya a little bit more than I used to. I do think John could still catch up. I think that John has much more room to grow, but he definitely has to grow to be able to have that probability. Lopez's footwork is also lacking. I don't have a ton of confidence in winning, as I don't think he can cut off Volk consistently enough in the octagon. Yeah, his footwork is garbage. BSD versus Arman, who wins? That's an interesting one. I'd probably slightly lean Arman until we see BSD defend more takedowns, but I'm not confident. I feel like Lopes versus Silva was a fluke, would take Silva by KO in the rematch. Yeah, I agree. I feel like Finney will be gunning for a finish after the criticism with his last performance. I mean, he better be gunning for it at least, yeah, for sure. Do you still think Ilya versus Arman is not close? Yeah, no, I can't see Arman surviving a round. or the lightest weight person who would be top 5 heavyweight. Like if they just straight up fought at heavyweight, who's the lightest weight person? Let's see. Probably like a Manel Cop. Who do you think wins Strickland versus Hernandez? I am leaning Strickland. What fighters do you think should change weight classes? To me, Gaudier and Lopes come to mind. I feel like a lot of light heavyweights just might as well go up to heavyweight, in all honesty. Like, I feel like Jan, at this point in his career, why not just go up to heavyweight? Like, make one more run at heavyweight. Same thing with, like, say, Reyes, right? You're probably not going to get another title shot at light heavyweight. Why not just go up to heavyweight? Use your speed there. So I feel like light heavyweights especially have that effect where it's like, just why not? In terms of, like, lighter guys who probably should, let's see. Honestly, Kamaru Usman probably should have after the Chimaev fight. I know he beat Buckley, but I feel like he would have a much better chance at winning the title right now at 185. Prime Burns versus Armin at 170. I'd favor Armin. Minot would have massive guy note heavyweight, true. I'm curious on who is the fighter that got you into the UFC. Mine's Gaethje. There wasn't really one UFC fighter for me. It was the era of, like, say, like, I watched UFC even before this era, but I think where I started consistently watching was like the Romero fights, Whitaker fights, some McGregor fights. So like that era was really strong in UFC. I feel like we've never gotten back to that point, in all honesty. Can Milk Costa be the first to finish Ige? I don't think so, but it's possible. Also, Ignacio Bahamondes. He needs to get more comfortable using his range properly. He's talented, but he just doesn't use it. I'm late to the stream, sorry. No worries, glad to have you here. Did Leon purely outclass Usman in the third fight, or was Usman really timid after the head kick KO, or a bit of both? More he was timid after the KO, it felt like. Don't knock me out in our next sparring session. You'll have to watch out for the flying knees. Umar or Payton and Alexandre Topuria. I would take Alexandre Topuria over Umar, but I'd probably take Umar over Talbot. Not confidently, though. I actually would not be surprised if Talbot won, but I'd probably lean Umar right now. The only fighter to ever outstrike Fiziev was Justin. Ruffy doesn't have the volume to match Fiziev on the feet, especially once you factor in takedowns. Fiziev has consistently shown he can land. I mean, that's not true because Fiziev got knocked out pretty badly in his first UFC fight. Fiziev, again, also got outstriked by the numbers by Bobby Green, which I feel like everyone loves to just conveniently forget. He had a pretty close fight with Jacasey as well. Missed the stream. How did you think John looked at last week? I was surprised how well he did in Southpaw and not having his usual shots. He looked improved. Yeah, I mean, I thought John looked pretty good. It felt like this fight was more experimental and getting back into the swing of things. He still did get his reads and try to punish it for sure. Allen was a lot more durable than I expected. He ate multiple head kicks in round 3. But I am very, very high on his progress still. Morales or Ilya at 170, I feel like Morales might beat. Oh no, Ilya would chin him. I'd say Ilya probably chins him within 2 minutes. Like, the striking defense in Morales is just not good enough to deal with someone like Ilya. Who are you picking, De Ridder or Baralho? If the question is De Ridder, it's just the other guy. Any fight in which you ask me, are you picking De Ridder? It's just no, I'm picking the other guy. Does Petr Yan kill Umar? Yes. Do you think a rematch between Holloway and Ilya at 155 could go differently or practically the same? I think it would go worse for Holloway. I think Ilya has actually gotten better. And I think it would be like round 1 or 2 this time. Charles Jourdain versus Kyler Phillips. Long story, but I'm 95% sure that fight is next. That's a good question. I do feel like Kyler is still a little bit better, but to be fair, like Jourdain has a lot of momentum now, and Kyler has a lot of negative momentum. So I wouldn't be shocked if Jourdain won, but I would still probably pick Kyler. Thoughts on Sean versus Payton? I'd still pick O'Malley. Morales versus Islam, who wins? I'm still mildly leaning towards Morales. Oh, I almost forgot. Okay, big update for you guys. I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about this. So, the app that I have been telling you guys about, I have been working on for months, is complete and probably going live to the public in the next week. So I am going to slowly start releasing Discord access to everyone so that you guys can get into the, how should I phrase this? So I could basically start showing you guys how it's going to work. So let me send you guys the link. So for a brief summary for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about. Basically, for the last 8 months, let's say, I have been working on something which I ended up calling Combat OS. It is basically software that is made to help regional, amateur, and even say lower level like UFC fighters structure their days and work towards their goals a lot more efficiently. Because the biggest problem with fighters right now is that until you are a top level fighter who is making a ton of money and could be a champion, you do not have the ability to get access to customized training because you cannot pay a head coach 24/7. You cannot have multiple coaches monitoring you, etc. So you are just guessing. A lot of these guys are just going to the public classes constantly. And public classes are good, don't get me wrong, but you have to know what you're focusing on, and you have to be constantly progressing in a specific way, or it's not going to help you enough. You are just not going to be able to reach the level you need to compete with the guys who do have the funding and such. So the newer generation of fighters are only succeeding when they are taking a more analytical approach. We're seeing that with the fighting nerds, with Elliott Topuria, etc. So basically, what this software does is it will ask you a bunch of questions, take into account what type of fighter you are, and it'll help you set your goals. It's basically going to figure out what access you have to what your skills are like, what access you have to training partners, equipment, all of that type of stuff. And then it'll create a plan basically based on where you are right now, where you need to be to accomplish your goal, and what you have access to in terms of money, equipment, time, etc. Then as you use it and you basically give it feedback, it gets to know you better and better, and it adjusts so that you can maximize your rate of progress. It'll basically make sure you keep moving towards your goals, and it'll adapt as you set new goals after that. It'll tell you what to do every day with your training, and you can also ask it specific questions about what you should do in situations. So it'll understand exactly who you are and like tune all of its answers per that completely. It also has a video analysis function. So if you need to know something about how your sparring was going or how your bag work is looking, but you don't have access to a coach to look at it, or you don't have the ability to just find someone who really knows what they're doing and such to do tape study with you, you can just feed it to that. It'll give you insights back, and then you'll be able to use that to improve. So I am not doing justice because I'm just rambling off the top of my head right now, but I've spent way too much time on this. So if you guys are training, if you guys are intending to be a fighter, especially if you're intending to be a high-level fighter, I highly suggest using the tool. The tool is probably going to release at $25 a month. Access to the Discord server, though, is free because it doesn't have any of the features necessarily. But the Discord server is where I'm going to be updating a lot of people on when it's releasing, giving people a discount to begin with, stuff like that. So I'm going to drop the link in right here. I'm also going to see if I can pin the link. Here we go. Pin message. There we go. So that is the link for the Discord. I will give a coupon for a first month in there at 1 point. I will also give updates on how to use it, tutorials and such. And I also am going to ask you guys for a lot of feedback in there. because I do know that even though I do believe, and everyone who has tested it believes that it is very useful software, it has a lot of room to grow. And I do want to keep updating it, making it more efficient for you guys until it is basically the perfect tool for fighters. So feel free to join. I will give as many updates as possible in there, and I'll start getting back to questions besides just ranting for like 5 minutes. Are you a programmer? Not by trade, but I self-taught it. Are you worried for Moreno at all against Asu with how bad he looked on ground against Tyra? No, Tyra's just that good. I'm not worried for Moreno against Asu. Is it fair to say Ruffy's only path to victory is a KO? His volume won't get him the decision. Win because he's looking for that one-shot KO all fight. So, I do think there's a world in which he lands damaging strikes in rounds 1 and 2 and can't get a finish, and then it kind of ends up going to a weird decision because of that. Is it the most likely scenario? I don't think so, but I wouldn't be shocked. Does David Martinez sleep Cheeto? I really hope so, and I do think it is very possible. Guys, I tried it. It's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. What will you do when Vinicius Oliveira becomes the first 3 division champ while throwing punches from his waist? I will probably have an aneurysm and die. Thoughts on Alexei? I don't know how to say the last name, sorry. I'm not sure how that is. You'd have to tell me who. What improvements can reasonably JDM have? I mean, a lot. I mean, he's still young. There's a lot of things he could change. Is it named like... Does that stand for Palantir's Immigration OS? I didn't even know that was a thing, but it is... I guess it's the same naming convention, but that was not intentional. Are you ever going to do a video on how you break down fight film? So people have asked me this. The problem is there's no... It's hard to explain. I just watch a sequence. Like, it's not very advanced what I do, right? I just watch a sequence. If I think there's something strange, I watch it back. If I can't pick up what I'm finding still, I'll watch it in slow motion. If something happens, like a shot lands, or there's a weird sequence in which something is blocked and then something lands after, I'll slow that down as well, and then look backwards if there were any indications of like tendencies of certain things happening. And I'll just repeat that and keep going through the fight over and over until I find what I'm looking for, basically. Official Super Bowl predictions? Seahawks. As much as I like Asu, I think he is just not dangerous enough to give Moreno problems on the feet of the ground. Yeah, agreed. Islam or Morales? I'm leaning Islam. What do you think of Fiziev's shot at being a top contender? I really like how he mixes takedowns in his game now. He's my favorite. He would need adjustments, and I'm worried that he's a bit too late in his career to adjust, but to be fair, some fighters just figure it out at some point. The former welterweight Curtis will screw over JDM. He'll be doing good against Pratas and then get boom chins. It's possible. Realistically, what is the best path to victory against Ilya? You have to be willing to counter him in the pocket, which is very dangerous because you can get chinned, but you have to fight that fight. Fiziev just gasses out in 3-rounder though. Yeah, it's not exactly encouraging that he does that. Quick predictions on main events in the next few cards. Let me look. If they're obvious, I'll say it, but if not, I don't want to say something that may not be. I mean, next week, I'm definitely going with Bautista. I mean, that's obvious. After that, probably Strickland, but I do have to watch tape. After that, definitely Moreno. Holloway versus Oliveira 2, I'm not sure yet. My initial instinct was Holloway, but I'm not positive. After that, an Emma versus Vallejos, obviously Vallejos. And then the main events for the next card is not announced yet. And then Adesanya versus Pyfer, I'm probably going Pyfer. Thoughts on MMA Shay? Seems like a good guy. I mean, I definitely don't agree with him on everything, but to be fair, MMA fans and analysts never agree on everything. But yeah, I mean, seems like a good guy, so nothing against him. Who in the top 5 does the hobby have the best chance at beating? Good question, actually. Top 5. Probably Song. I could see him beating Song. Who wins, Ko or Jacoby Smith? They booked that fight. I'm leaning towards Ko. He's another Fight Lab reaction. Maybe we'll get to that in a few minutes. What round does Bautista finish Oliveira in? I'm saying 1. Bautista TKO, I think, is the perfect opportunity for him to make a statement. Yeah, I do. Prime TJ or current Volk? Current Volk. How missed weight by 3 pounds? That's... Why is everyone missing weight now? It's crazy. Don't you think the best way to beat Ilya is to be taller, rangier than him and just jab deep and move around? No, because then he's going to eventually get you against the cage and flatline you. Like, you can't play that game with you because he's so good at cage cutting. Who's the best striker Islam could beat if he didn't grapple at all? Maybe Gaethje. Maybe. Are you shocked Lucindo popped? No. Do you think Piper will finish Izzy? Yes. Alright, you guys want a Fight Lab reaction? Let me see. Are there any specific Fight Lab videos you guys think I should watch? Aspinall one? Can you send me a link? Just put it in the Discord. What would be your odds for an Ilya versus Tai Tuivasa matchup? Like minus 900 for Ilya about. Thoughts on Torrez versus Ilya? If Torrez was more defensively responsible, he would beat a lot of people, if not everyone. The problem is that he always overextends. Loki MMA Shea overhypes Aspen a lot. He talks about his footwork and speed. Like, what footwork, dude, is just stutter step and just blitzes with his chin up. Wotan chins him. Yeah, I agree with you there. I do think that, and to be fair, a lot of people do, right? He's not alone in that, but if you guys have a Fight Lab video you want me to react to, just drop it in our Discord right now. Just put in the MMA discussion one. If not, I'll just choose a random video in like a minute or two. Prediction for Albazi versus Horiguchi. Horiguchi should murder him. Plus 200 on Torres versus Dawson was the easiest bet. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, in the betting Discord, we blasted Torres round 1 KO. Odds were insane for how easy that was. Torres is 2 explosive for his own good. Yeah, I agree. He needs to pull back a little bit on it. How far can Torrez make it, though? I don't think most lightweights are good enough at countering to beat him. It really depends on his matchups. Like, it's with Torrez, it's really matchup specific. Like, with the right matchups, he could get to top 5. With the wrong matchups, then no. Apparently, the Aaron Tau fight is off. That sucks because I really wanted to see Bob Barrett fight. Talking about round 1 KO, how about Alex Perez's nickname is literally the decision? That was hysterical. Okay, we got a video to react to. What is Fight Lab's obsession with Chonko? Alright, let's do this.
How Chonko defends the low calf kick. It requires precise distance management. He has to be right at the end of his opponent's range so that when he pulls his lead leg back just a few inches, it slips out of range.
Okay, I mean, maybe I will give him the benefit of the doubt and keep going, obviously, but I think more so his ability to defend the calf kick is the guy literally lifted his leg behind his hip and made it very obvious that he was about to smash a leg kick with as much power as possible. So I don't think it really took a genius to defend this one, not gonna lie.
Is the low calf kick. It requires precise distance management. He has to be right at the end of his opponent's range so that when he pulls his lead leg back just a few inches, it slips out of range. But that's not all.
Dude threw the calf kick so hard that he went off balance, and we're being like, oh, it took incredible precision to step out of range of this like a wild calf kick.
But that's not all. Another way he defends is by lifting his leg off the ground. This is a tactic
That's Jose Aldo
perfected. When there's weight on the leg, the low kick does a lot of damage because all of its force is absorbed. When it's off the ground, some of the impact is lost when the leg gives away. Another advantage of lifting his leg is that he's effectively chambering a front kick. So not only does this discourage his opponent from attacking that leg, it also forces him to think about defending. This makes it very hard for him to pressure forward, knowing that he might walk right into a kick. And he doesn't really have any way of knowing if this kick will go to his body or his head at this point.
So, interestingly, a way that Reyes figured out how to deal with this, which I hadn't seen anyone do before, and it's so obvious just thinking about it now. I don't know why no one else thought of this. Just kick the leg, right? He did this against Jones, and it was crazy because no one had ever done it before. If someone lifts their leg and is waiting a little bit like in the chamber before they throw, and you don't know where it's going, you kick the leg. It doesn't matter if it's going body, leg, high, whatever. You're going to intercept the leg and you're going to throw them off balance. Then after that, you can either shoot or just follow up with the left hook.
This is an interesting dilemma that has tons of offensive potential for Chonko. In one instance,
Chonko balances on his arms while defending calf kicks. Yeah, exactly.
Caldas reaches down to catch the kick as if it were going to his body. If Chonko were going to his head, it could be devastating. This was the setup for Lyoto Machida's famous knockout of Vitor Belfort. Belfort got conditioned to expect the kick to his body, and when he reached down to grab it, Machida pulled the switch and landed the kick up top. Watch how...
I mean, yes, I guess conditioning people with the front kick works. That part is true for sure. It's just, I don't know. Fight Lab videos are all so strange to me because it's either the most obvious point whatsoever or it's just wrong. You show the clip of Reyes countering it. I could probably bring up my own YouTube video where I showed it. UFC is gonna throw a fit if I bring up the actual clip, unfortunately. Let me see if I can find it in my own video. Despite a checkered past and over kicks, he'll throw in a fight will be. Oh, here we go. So it's, let's see. You can kind of see it here. right? So, unfortunately, I think I just have the screenshots. So you could see that Jones throws the oblique, or lifts his leg to throw the oblique kick. Reyes just kicks at it. We see it here again clearly, right? So Jones lifts his leg more forwards. Reyes just kicked at it. So he was doing it with a variety of kicks. It was working really well because Reyes is really fast. I'll do one more video. If anyone else drops something in the Discord, I'll pull it. Oh, a bunch of you dropped it simultaneously after. Okay. Secret to spinning elbow. Which one do? I feel like these are going to be less fun because they're probably more like normal, but we'll do the spinning elbow one.
Calculated plan. Let's take a closer look. Here we see Lopes throw a jab, and Silva is in a good position to throw a spinning elbow. When he slips to the outside of the jab, he's already starting to turn out, so he can just continue that rotation and convert it into a spinning elbow. But there's a problem. Lopes can see him stepping in, and he's already starting to back out.
Yeah, that is true. I didn't like how obvious John was making the spinning elbow attempts against Lopes, and even to an extent against Allen, because when he was landing it against Dober, he's landing against Dober, it was because he was really baiting Dober to come in, and then he was catching him right like as he overextended on the cross. It wasn't because he was like throwing it in the center of the octagon. It kind of felt like after he hurt Dober with it and basically finished the fight with it, that he kind of got too spinning elbow crazy to a small extent.
So he gets out of range before it can land. Ideally, Lopes would be moving forward so that he has to reverse his momentum to get out of range. But not just straight forward along the center line. He needs to be moving into the path.
Yeah, so ideally, Silva would want to have his leg to the right of Lopes's left leg here, if you're going to land this. Because essentially, so they are in, I think in Southpaw way too much, but they're both in Orthodox, right? They're in closed stances here. Yeah, you're going to have to step on the outside to land it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. The Silva would have had to get his left leg further out to the Silva's left, Silva's right of Lopes's left leg, if you guys are following what I'm saying.
Path of the spinning elbow, which is off of Silva's center line. This means that there needs to be an angle between them. We saw this play out perfectly between Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. Pico was moving forward aggressively, but it wasn't in a straight line. He planted hard off of his lead foot to create an angle. Now, he's moving off of Murphy's center line, and he's in a strong attacking.
Yeah, so this is a bit better, because obviously his foot is closer. It's not fully past, but it's much closer.
Position. Murphy can't really hit him with straight punches unless he twists and reaches across his body, and that won't generate any power. But a spinning elbow moves around his center of mass. So this angle makes Pico safe from traditional counters, but vulnerable to spinning counters. That false sense of security is what...
Yeah, so you could see the difference here is preferably the leg is on the outside of the leg. But even right here, it's good enough to be able to land it. But you could see also that if he was a little bit further this way, it would have landed on the chin, where here it landed on the side of the head. Good enough to put someone out, so it definitely works to say the least. But if you're trying to set up the spinning elbow in general, you want to be on the outside.
What makes spinning elbows so dangerous against aggressive opponents? And that's exactly what happened between Lopes and Silva. Lopes was circling out to his right to get away from Silva's advance, so Silva intelligently tried to cut him off with the leaping lead hook. But notice how similar the angle between Silva and Lopes is to Pico and Murphy.
This is a better angle, because the foot is already on the outside, up by a small amount, but it is.
Silva barely missed with the left hook. But
the other thing is that Silva overextended on left hook so much, is if he had not overextended here, he would have been able to recover. He was just rushing the finish so badly. He wanted to get the round 2 finish, where he could have just calmed down and gotten round 3-1.
But because of that angle, his forward momentum sent him right into the path of Lopes' spinning elbow. Was this?
Yeah, so nothing immensely wrong with this video, but it definitely showed Silva rushed this one way too much. Evolve John or Ilya. I mean, give John another 2-3 years. I think he could do it. Yeah, but can John Silva balance on his leg while throwing calf kicks? He needs he needs to balance on both legs while throwing the calf kick. Do spinning elbows work better for karate style fighters? I think you can get the 3-legged John beats Ilya. Do spinning elbows work better for karate style fighters? I do think you could get the foot placement a bit more easily than, say, a boxing style fighter can. So in that sense, I would say yes. Best way to beat John: body work, low kicks, spinning attacks. I think that the low kicks early are very important before he gets his reads, because you could do a lot of damage if you punish it properly early. And you just want to keep varying your attacks so that he can't really get a read on you. What do you think about the chances are of Volk starching Lopes? You said something about it earlier, if I remember correctly. I think there's like a, say, 20% chance we see Volk just knock him out in rounds 1 or 2. Karate versus Muay Thai. I mean, it depends how you embody both of them, right? There's no, like, explicit style that's just better than the other. Not gonna lie, I think that John Silva in his next fight is going to show his best version ever. I agree. The feeling that his last 3 fights, Silva has not been comfortable fighting on the back foot. Do you also see that? I think Silva likes to bait that he's not comfortable fighting on the back foot. Generally speaking, he likes fighting on the back foot because he wants to counter there. Against Vallejos even, people thought that he was very uncomfortable on the back foot, but then he was just trying to bait Vallejos into running into the flying knee. So he does a lot of that gamemanship where he seems uncomfortable and then he just pulls a spinning elbow, flying knee, something like that. Alright, I am probably going to wrap up here. So I'm going to do one more promo for each of my things now. If you guys are betting on this event, the link is in the description for the website for my betting service. We did 250 units profit last year, that whole shtick. We're doing very well, only $25 a month. I hate repeating it every time, but we do what we gotta do. And then if you guys are fighters, if you guys want to be in the UFC at some point, or box, or whatever you want to do in terms of combat sports, my new application is going to help you guys with that significantly. So do consider joining the Discord for that, where I will be giving updates. The link I have pinned here until the end of stream in like a minute or so. So thank you all for coming today. I do appreciate you guys coming each and every time. Hopefully this is a good event. Hopefully you all enjoy. Good luck on your bets for everyone betting. And have a good night, everyone. I'll see you guys next time.